Welcome to another edition of Grandstanders Live. I'm your host, Scott Kerman, and I'm joined by my usual cohorts, the Professor Russ Stevens and Uncle Joe McLaughlin. Well, boys, we have another great show for you tonight, so let's get it started. We start with the Boston Red Sox, the first place Boston Red Sox, and we didn't have a show last week, boys, but great things have happened in the last 2 weeks. The most important thing, we basically buried the Yankees. Sweeping them, the Yankees left town on Sunday with their ass handed to them. They haven't been the same since. But I'll tell you something, we got to move forward. The Red Sox are not only going to be buyers in the trading deadline, I would suggest that the Red Sox are also going to be sellers. When you got Chris Sales and Houck coming up, guy like Garrett Richardson, who really is we don't need him anymore, he's a guy that you might trade. Would you agree?
Possibly. I think you need the depth.
Yeah, it's tough to give up a starting pitcher, but you do wonder if this next start or so, if he continues to sort of bump along, whether they say, to your point, if we could trade him for a really good reliever, why wouldn't we do that?
Right. Yeah. Or
I'd rather trade him for a position player. The bullpen has been, while they've done well this year. I think they're the best in baseball.
Yeah. Well, look, Joe and Russ, Garrett Richards belongs in the National League. The National League do not have.
Oh, yeah. It's screams for him.
So he may have value for that. You got Tanner Houck, who's going to come up now after the All-Star break, and he's going to fit into that Whitlock role, which could put Whitlock in the starting rotation possibly, and then all of a sudden Chris Sale comes back, and maybe even a guy like Martin Perez, who really doesn't have a position, could be on the blocks. This is Chaim Bloom thinking outside the box.
Maybe, the problem is that in Sale, Whitlock, Perez, and Houck, you got a bunch of guys who really can't pitch much more than 5 innings. You're not going to ask for 7 innings from Sale. So you say, all right, how many guys do we need if they're only going to go 5 innings? And you may need all of them. I mean, you may need all of them to start and open games and get you through 8 innings, Do
you think the Red Sox, John Henry and Chaim Bloom is saying, okay, we actually could win a World Series right now? Because clearly this was a bridge year. Do you think they've made the adjustment yet, or are they still skeptical?
Joe, what do you think?
I think they're still skeptical unless they show me, forget the pitching. The right side of the infield has to be addressed. I know Scotty's dying for Jared Duran, but I think at this point he can stay down there. He needs to play every day, and I don't see the outfield is playing just fine right now. So I just think the right side of the infield needs to be addressed, whether it's with Richie Doubles or someone of that ilk. And we do.
I don't know. I'd like to see. I know you, Russ. We'll talk about it. Dahlbeck, Moreland. 2 crappy players. Hopefully, I'd like them just to go out and get it.
Sort of crappy player.
Yeah, a guy who can can play every day, and a guy I like a lot is Carlos Santana from the Royals, a switch hitter type.
Yeah, I mean, if you can get Carlos Santana and start Dahlbeck the rest of the way, I'm all in favor of that. I have no problem with that. I don't want to see Bloom get so far ahead of himself that he ends up, and I don't think he's going to do it. He said as much as he's not going to do it, and start trading 2 top 10 prospects for a rental or something. I just don't think it's a goofy year. And, they're riding high. They're a good team. They play hard. They play smart. They play aggressive. They're fun to watch. But they could lose 12 out of 15 games. Right?
They could. Yeah, that's a great observation. And I have to be honest with you, we won in 18. We had the greatest Red Sox team in the history of the franchise. I don't know if there's an outcry that we have to win it this year. You know what I mean? I know that's sacrilege. We have to win every year. The Red Sox don't win the World Series this year. That's not a big deal because they have a lot of great young players and the future is bright.
Yes, and to Russ's point, don't give up the prospects.
Don't give up.
Just move along if you have to.
Yeah.
You know, they've been doing just fine right now. I know they can't beat the Astros. Okay, fine. It's still a successful season.
Look, we got about 15 games or so, 17 games before the deadline. If they win 12 of them and they're sitting, the first, the best record in baseball, then Bloom, he's going to have to do something to improve the team. I still don't think you trade big time prospects, but this next 3 weeks is going to go a long way in determining, how much he's willing to give up for a player.
Well, that's a great point. But then we go to the MLB draft that we have the 4th pick in the draft. When you have the 4th pick in the draft, you're bringing in a guy, which may give you a little more confidence in sending someone of quality out because you're just bringing in a couple of prospects that you're, of course, the new car you're in love with.
Right.
Well, and also, like the Carlos Santana idea, Kansas City, Minnesota Twins who are disappointing this year. Teams that are always willing to go for cash rather than players.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I mentioned Kansas City.
That's John Henry's job. John Henry wants to give up some cash. It doesn't affect your salary cap. Cash on the barrel, that buys your player.
I mentioned Kansas City, guys, because, obviously Chaim Bloom made the big deal with Benintendi to Kansas City. We know GMs have trading partners. Dombrowski, he likes San Diego to trade with. There's certain teams, they have great relationships with the general managers, and they make deals. So you should go to teams and look at the Kansas City Royals roster. Now, if you wanted to sweeten the deal and go Merrifield, obviously, 32-year-old guy who's continuing an upside, you'd have to give up, at the very least, a pretty damn good prospect to get it.
Right. And by the way, I'm not saying it's not worth it. You may give up your number 7 or 8 or 9 prospect in your top 10 if you get a guy who's more than a rental who fits into your team for the next 2 years.
You have control for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
All right. Max asked me this question yesterday, and it should be brought up because Xander's having an incredible season. Of course, we all love Xander on this show. Right now, today, based on their whole career performance, who would you take, Xander or Mookie?
Oh, I would still take Mookie. When Mookie is right. Look, that guy was just such a dynamic, game-changing player. Jeez.
Yes, game changer. He controlled the game at times.
Yeah.
Scott, I think the question is with them both coming up for either arbitration or free. Xander can opt out after this year and be a free agent. Who do you prioritize re-signing, Devers or Xander?
Well, I think you got to sign both. Had you kept Mookie Betts, I think one of those guys would have gone. That we would not. But you cannot lose Mookie Betts a year ago and then think you're going to lose a Xander or Devers. Yeah. And you got to pay. The Boston Red Sox have to pay some stars. They're the Boston Red Sox. That's just too bad. And so Xander's going to get his deal, and Devers is going to get his deal. I'm not worried at all about it.
I'm not either. They would be, I think people were relatively understanding given that they traded, probably a Hall of Fame player, one of the best players that have come through this city in years. Incredible off the field, fun to watch on the field. And they kind of got a pass because of 2018.
COVID. I mean, obviously.
COVID, they knew that they had, big time salary concerns. People would not give them a pass if they don't sign Devers or both. They have to sign both of them.
Yeah, especially with Devers and Xander have made commitments to the team, vocal commitments to the team. Yeah. Well, Mookie never did.
Right. Yeah. Xander actually just hit a double to keep. Now the Red Sox are down 1 run, 5-4. He was listening to us. Xander is the face of the organization. There's not a chance you could get rid of him.
I agree.
You're gonna have to pay him. He's gonna opt out. He's a very team-friendly deal. And now, especially after something like Lindor's deal, you're gonna have to up
Scott Boras, Scott Boras let him sign a friendly deal a few years ago. Scott Boras is not going to let him do that again.
You're right.
But that's the one bad thing about going out to LA. They have Scott Boras, all of a sudden we have to hear about him, and he makes my skin crawl. There's just something so scuzzy about him. I can't deal with it. Normally, if the Patriots or the Celtics had the number 4 pick in the draft, we would be beside ourselves right now with 4 days before the MLB, before the draft. The Red Sox are in the same situation. What do you think happens? I'm hearing right now the Leiter goes number 2 to the Rangers, and we end up with the catcher Henry Davis.
I thought the Rangers were getting the local kid, the shortstop.
Well, I don't know. This is what I'm hearing, the latest from guys that, these MLB draft stat geeks. Look,
no one knows the MLB prospects. It's not like, you've watched so little college basketball, watched more college football, and there's much more reporting on both drafts, prior to the draft. So people feel they have an idea of what's going on. Baseball, you have to go digging to find any information about the way.
Well, I'm a big fan of drafting a positional player so early in the draft. Look, these starting pitchers, they can blow their arm out and they're done. But
I don't know. I would love to see them pick Leiter. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
What I'm saying, I wouldn't be. Would you be sad if all of a sudden we pick a bust?
No. Look, you're going to end up with a great prospect. That's the beautiful thing. I don't think Bloom is going to foul this thing up. So I won't be, how could we possibly know the difference between the catcher and one of the shortstops and Leiter in terms of their ultimate value? I just think it would be more fun to have Leiter in Portland next year and then in Pawtucket the year after than watching a high school shortstop develop for 5 years.
Yeah, I don't want any high school players. Please. I've had enough of Michael Chavis for a lifetime. I can't ever see him in a Red Sox uniform. All right,
you
boys.
You really got to project, on a high school kid. You really have to know your stuff.
Right.
Project how they're going to be 5-6 years down the line.
Yeah, I would stay away from that. I hope they do. All right, boys, we go to the Patriots. Mac Jones signs a 4-year deal, and Russ talks about this loss a lot. If you could get a starting quarterback for $4 million a year for the next 4 years and then be able to spread the rest of that money out to the rest of the players, you have it. Advantage that team.
You certainly do. It gives you a window of opportunity to do a bunch of things that typically the best teams in the league can't do because they're paying their quarterback $20, $25, $30 million a year.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. Mac,
but remember, the quarterback has to perform. We have yet to see this. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, it has to be a potential Super Bowl winning quarterback in his first contract. That's the difference maker.
And they're rare. Russell
Wilson was one for sure. Tommy Brady was one.
Yeah. Aaron Rodgers was one.
Yep.
If performances are equal, and of course I'm just, we just bring this up for talk fodder. If performances are equal during training camp, who is the starting quarterback?
Ask the coach.
I think if they're equal, then he's going to start Newton for a few games.
Yeah. You think so?
Yeah.
Just let Mac Jones watch the speed of the game. And
yeah, I think I think for Mac Jones to start week 1, he's going to have to decisively beat Newton. It's going to be like a boxing match where the challenger has to decisively beat the champion in order to get the call.
Yeah, that's a great observation. Yeah. Just what training camp is in 3 weeks, boys. I hope you're getting
right.
So the Red Sox better continue to play well because the moment I see Mac Jones on the field, I don't care. That's it.
Jimmy G already.
Oh, absolutely.
House in his eyes, everything.
There's a little flicker of a rumor you just keep hearing that if Trey Lance plays well in training camp for San Francisco, they're not going to have Jimmy G sit on the bench for $24 million a year, and they may come a calling.
You're very fickle up there on Mason Terrace.
So the Patriots would what? Cut Cam Newton, Stidham, and Hoyer. I would, sure, that is absolutely possible.
The dream of the Kerman household.
Oh my God. That'd be incredible. Oh my God. Don't get my hopes up.
You have them alternating snaps.
No, I want them on the field at the same time. Just put each one of them out wide. Okay. There's comedy, and then there's N'Keal Harry asking to be traded. That's beyond comedy. I can't even. It's too funny. I can't even laugh.
They could have gotten at least a 7th-round pick from him if he didn't open his mouth. Now they can't get anything for him.
What are they going to do?
Give him anything.
You guys are historians of the Patriots. To be honest with you, I don't remember the last time any Patriot asked to be traded.
I don't remember. Maybe Chandler Jones but Chandler Jones was an all-pro player.
Yeah, right.
Right?
What do you know Belichick's not going to cut him because you asked to be traded, and there's not a chance he's going to give you.
Oh, he's going to hold them out until the last day of training camp when everyone's got a job, and then he's going to cut them.
No. He'll go into training camp with him and hope that he performs well. If he has a brain in his head, he'll work his ass off in training camp, show pretty well in some of the joint practices, and he'll deal him for a 5th-round pick just to get the salary off the book.
I don't think he'll get a 5th, but he'll try to push him to like a team he doesn't like Cincinnati. He's definitely going to send him down.
I bet you it gets. I'll bet you it gets at least a 5th-round pick for him.
Okay, but we know 6th and 7th-round picks mean nothing to Bill.
Right.
Absolutely, he care less. He wants to go home during the draft. He doesn't even want to be around after the 5th round. So he
let Ernie pick what was it, 7th round pick?
Yeah, and he picked some guy. Yeah, what's his name? Nixon, right? I think it's
I forget who he picked. We'll have to follow up on it though.
All right, so once N'Keal Harry, we can already say this. N'Keal Harry, boys, is he the greatest 1st-round bust in the history of the Patriots?
No,
probably. I mean,
no, the guy that went 1st overall there.
Kenny Sims?
Yes.
All right.
Maybe right up there. Yeah, Kenny Sims, but he's Belichick's worst pick, right?
Oh, yeah. Dominic Easley wasn't a great one either, though.
But they got some play out of him, and they ended up, but I think he was
a solid pro, though, too.
Yeah.
He didn't fit in with them.
Is Easley still in the league?
I think he's out. He's injured. He finally had his final injury.
Because he played did he play pretty well for Tampa, I think, right?
Yeah. Pro Football Focus loved him. They had him as the most disruptive interior lineman, like 2 or 3 years.
Okay, boys, I had a dream a few nights ago. I really believe that the Patriots are going to add a veteran wide receiver during training camp. It just, one that sticks this time, not the Reggie Waynes of the world, just come in, collect $1 million and then leave. But I think you're going to see that because I think that, like the Red Sox need that extra relief pitcher, the Patriots need a veteran wide receiver.
Yeah, I think it could absolutely happen.
Oh, makes sense.
They're probably only going to keep 4 receivers because they're going to probably keep 4 tight ends, right?
Yeah.
So they'll
only keep 3 tight ends, Russ.
Well,
Ossie and the 2.
Well, it depends on what you classify Keene as. If you classify Keene as a fullback or a tight end, but they'll keep Keene and Ossie, and they'll probably keep the other fullback as well. So,
keep Keene?
Oh yeah, he's not cutting. He traded up in the 3rd round to pick him, for God's sake. He's not cutting Keene.
I don't think he gets.
No way.
No, absolutely not.
So I think there's the 4th receivers, Gunner versus the kid Trey Nixon, the other Flotsam and Jetson, and would have been N'Keal Harry, but he's off the reservation. So they could they could bring a veteran in instead of Gunner. I could see that.
And I just can't believe that we could have got DJ Metcalf. He would have fit perfect in this town, right?
Yeah, they can always keep Gunner because they'll need him as a punt returner.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, well, Gunner was the All-Pro, right? He was All-Pro. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
not going anywhere. Gunner's,
Yeah.
Gunner's good
So if
value.
you're keeping Slater and Gunner, you just don't have room for another. You may not have room for another receiver.
Slater couldn't catch a pass if his life depended on it.
Right.
We've all seen too much of Matthew Slater split out wide.
I know, right? That's the joke of the century. All right, boys, go to the Celtics. Did you watch the finals game last night?
I did. Yep.
Yeah.
Good game. It's the Suns are a fun team. The
Yeah.
Suns are a really fun team.
But
It's like an old-fashioned team, with
Yeah.
DeAndre Ayton is a real center, and Chris Paul is a real old-fashioned point guard. It looks like they are a 1 and a 5, and they're like the only team that's like that.
yeah, that's a great point.
Don't forget the fact that they have a off guard who's a top 20 player in Devin.
Oh yeah.
Now let me ask you guys a question. If Chris Paul, this version of healthy Chris Paul, had been the point guard for the Celtics this year, how far would they have gone?
Wow, that's a great question. I would say I don't know if they would have gotten by the Nets, even if they had Chris Paul.
I think they might have beaten. Yeah, well, the Nets got injured after the Celtics, so yeah, they may not have gotten by the Nets. But I think they, had they gotten by the Nets, they'd have made it. They could have made it into the finals.
Absolutely.
But Chris Paul is the kind of point guard that can control the game. He speeds it up, he speeds it up, and he slows down, he slows down. Depending on the matchups and the personnel the other team puts in, they put in Brook Lopez in this series. Well, he speeds it up, and they go to the transition game, leave Brook behind. He goes out, they slow it down, and they pound it into Ayton,
Yep.
He controls the game much more than, say, a guy like Kemba did, who came down and either passed off or shot,
Yep.
But is it my imagination to think that after watching these two teams and watching the four teams, that we're not that far away?
No, I mean, if you look at that's a little bit what I was getting at. If you look at the Suns, they give you hope that you're not that far away if you're the Celtics. You add a really legitimate point guard, or Marcus Smart plays Chris Paul, and you might be two pieces away from competing, because at the end of the day, how can Brooklyn really count on the three guys being healthy?
No, or engaged, which is
staying with the team. Aren't they all free agents as of next year?
No, they're all signed next year, Joe.
Yeah, but I mean, after next season,
that,
they're all free to go.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, it just feels like their time already passed. It was only a few months.
Yeah.
It was like their window is that year. I don't know how much more engaged Kyrie Irving's going to be, that he can sustain it through a season and a playoff. I don't know if that's possible for him anymore.
He thinks he's a great thinker, not just a basketball player.
Yeah, right.
A minor part of his personality.
No, for God's sake. He's insane, actually. Yeah, I mean, no, he really is. What should we think of this coach? I mean, this guy was Udoka was a assistant for many years, which is nice and all. But to be honest with you, when guys are an assistant for a lot of years and never get a job, is it maybe it's just me? I kind of question that.
Yes.
Well, the most impressive thing about Ime Udoka is the fact that you just said his name the right way. You just pronounced his name right. I would have bet dollars to donuts you were going to butcher that guy's name.
Just call him Coach Hughes.
I'm sitting here and I'm blown away that you got his name right.
I did I?
You nailed it. You said it better than I could. I don't know. You know what, though, Scott? There's a huge difference between a 52-year-old, longtime assistant and a 43-year-old. I mean, Pop gave him a job at 34, right? That guy wasn't going to get a head coaching job his name wasn't Jason Kidd or Chauncey Billups, right? He wasn't going to get a head coaching job in the first 5 to 7 years. He's an unknown guy at 34 years old, so he had to pay his dues.
Yeah. A lot of times head coaches have to sell tickets just like draft picks.
Right.
They want to go with the name to sell season tickets.
Right.
And wait, Joe, you said Cassidy, Bruce Cassidy, he coached the Capitals, did he?
Yes. He was
He
a
was
head
with Providence for many years.
No, but he's head coach of the Capitals.
Yeah.
So he had,
He did toil in obscurity for many, many years.
yeah, no, I understand. But then again, look, Brad Stevens was in Butler and got the job.
Yeah.
All right, what grade are we?
He was a young guy too. He was young.
Yeah. What grade are we giving Brad Stevens right now? He hired a
Well,
coach.
here's what I like. I like the fact that he's moving pretty quickly, right? We all knew he had a Kemba problem, and he solved the Kemba problem.
He got out from under it. Got out from under it.
He was the first guy to hire a coach. He was the first one.
Yeah.
So, I give him credit for not screwing around and waiting 8 weeks and trying to make the perfect decision, because that was feeling like that's what Danny was doing over and over and over again.
Exactly. He couldn't pull the trigger.
Right. Brad looks like someone who's inclined to act. That's all. He may have acted wrong, but at least he's inclined to act.
And the internet's always going to second guess it. So these rumors that all these teams all of a sudden the offseason, their main priority is Kemba Walker. Yeah, right. Did you watch any of the games he played over the year? Why would your main priority be Kemba Walker?
I mean, Chris Mannix is trying to sell that stuff. Maybe he acted too soon. Are you kidding me? You were not going to get good players. You were not going to get good players for Kemba Walker. And
No.
You were definitely always going to give up a draft pick.
Yeah.
I think Philly is screwing around with Simmons for too long.
Right.
And they're going to end up holding the bag.
Right. So make a move. Look, the other thing that the franchise is getting criticized about is they should have tried to get Sam Presti or waited to hire Brad. I think there's two reasons why Brad is the right guy for the next 2 years. One, the most important thing for the Celtics franchise right now is the evaluation of their own players, right? They need to be able to evaluate, can Brown and Tatum be 1 and 2? Can they play together? Is Marcus Smart a point guard? Is Nesmith is Langford, is he a good player, right?
Yeah.
There's nobody better in the NBA than Brad to make that determination. And two, they still hold Brad's rights. So in a year and a half, when a desperate team comes to the Celtics, they're going to get a first-round draft pick to trade Brad to a team that needs a coach.
Absolutely.
I know that in my soul.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, right. And it could be a top 15 pick.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. No, I agree. He's an
I
asset.
hope it's not 14. We haven't had a lot of luck at 14.
Right. But say the Bucks get bounced in 6 games. Budenholzer holds on to his job for next year, but the midway through or towards the end of next year, they crap out. You don't think the Bucks would come a calling to the Celtics for Brad Stevens?
Yep. And
Midwestern boy. Oh yeah, they'd love that.
Absolutely.
that segues into my next topic. We need veteran players. When you start looking at the Suns and the Bucks, when we think about our 2008 title, the Posies, the PJ Browns, the Eddie Houses, these are the guys.
Yep.
Obviously, we had the stars, but these are the reasons that we won. You cannot win in the NBA unless you have 3 to 4 veteran guys, and Brad Stevens got to go out and get those guys.
You need a diversity of players. Doesn't matter if it's a basketball team, a baseball team, or a football team. A diversity of veterans with rookies and mid-range guys. It just stands to reason. You can't have a very young team. You can't have a very old team. Never works.
No, Scotty, you put your finger on my biggest complaint about Ainge is that he did not get the veterans either in the offseason or even more so at the trading deadline. But Jay Crowder, right? We were happy to see that guy leave. You look at Jay Crowder, every team that Jay Crowder's on is a winning team.
Yeah.
Minus touch.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, he's got to do it. And Danny Ainge fell in love with his second-round picks.
Yeah.
He did. When Danny
I
Ainge,
think he fell in love with them because they were cheap. You could fill up the end of the bench without having to spend too much.
yeah, he would sign the Carson Edwards of the world to 4-year deals. Who does that? You know?
Yeah. It was his biggest mistake. It did not bring the veterans in that any good team needs to keep them grounded. You
Yep.
know?
Yeah, we don't need the Shemmys of the world.
Nope.
But that would have helped the Marcus Smarts to become more of a player instead
Vince
of feeling
Carter.
like he had to be.
Right. Vince Carter towards, 3 years ago, whoever that was. Jabari Parker wasn't that kind of guy. Like
No.
a real respected, veteran who could keep these guys straight was what they needed.
And especially having Al Horford is that one of those guys, and thankfully they got him back. People don't understand that Al Horford's going to play a great role.
There is some value in just being a veteran.
And I love Al. I mean, Al gives an effort every night, and he played well for OKC. People don't realize that he put up really good numbers for them. That was just a bad fit in Philly, but everybody's a bad fit in Philly. Everyone. I don't know what the process is going to take 100 years. All right, we end with the Bruins. I'm telling you, the Bruins are have trouble. Tampa feels like the Islanders of this. Like, what are the 70s? They're going to win 4 cups in a row.
They're really good.
Well, remember, they're not just at the salary cap. They are way, way over it. Kucherov put them. That was a kind of a con job. They hid Kucherov all year, didn't play him in the regular season because they would have had to cut like 3 or 4 players. Then all of a sudden, Kucherov comes when the salary cap doesn't count anymore, and he's scoring 2 goals a game,
Well, I think addition by subtraction, too. We need to raid that roster.
Yeah.
Well, I think Seattle will be doing that first.
Yeah. Right. Look, it's just the Bruins are in this interesting spot. Can they get one more run out of the old guys on this team? They've got some salary cap space, so it's not out of the question. So we'll see.
I think you're going to see a lot different team because I think that Sweeney and Neely's job is in jeopardy.
They're worried about their jobs. You could be right.
Yeah. I think that Jacob.
They have a pretty easy. They did work it well in one way. They've got so many free agents that they can protect the core nicely from Seattle picking.
Yeah, they're gonna. At worst case, they're gonna lose Connor Clifton to Seattle. Like that's.
Yeah, right.
I'm not gonna stay up. I'm not gonna lose any sleep on that one.
Are you sure?
Yeah. They lose back a 9, and thanks very much. See you later.
Hey, look, the Bruins are gonna be fine so long as they can re-sign Krejci. We all know that.
I will be so sick to my stomach. Can you imagine?
He'll be playing in the KHL next year.
The same day they re-signed Krejci, and then the Celtics pick up Kelly Olynyk and re-sign Shemmey.
Oh God, you would have a heart attack. We'd have to send the paramedics to Mason Terrace.
I know. Please don't do that to me. I'm feeling so good about the Red, and we have to be feeling good before I wrap up the show. The Red Sox are must-watch TV every night. I'm just happy to watch them.
Yeah, your boy Kike just struck out to end the game, but
he did. The game's over. Oh,
yeah.
Well,
they had been playing decently.
Yeah, he's playing better.
He's got a role. He's going to ultimately be the second baseman on the team.
Yeah, you're probably right. That would be the ideal place for him.
Because otherwise, in center field, he'll wear out. All right, boys. Well, that's our show tonight. That was a fun one. I want to thank Corbin, of course, behind the scenes. I want to thank the fellas. Please check us out on our website at thegrandstanders.com and tune in again next Wednesday night at 6:30 for another edition of Grandstanders Live. I'm your host, Scott Kerman. Have a great and happy night.